Hi, what's up, Chalkers? Welcome to the Let's Chalk About It podcast. If you're new to fitness or just want to hang with some like-minded fitness folk, then this is the place for you. Remember, it's always good to chalk about it.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Let's Talk About It. I am joined by Cactus Jacked, Scott Carson, and we have our very first podcast guest in the House of Pain, Stixx.
Boom.
Boom.
Yeah, all right. Okay.
The
I'm
real
not going to
ones.
bother now. I'm just not going to bother. I'm going to sit like this so you can't see my upper half. How are we all? We doing all right?
Yeah, as good as can be, I guess.
Yeah.
Got a lot more time on our hands now, haven't we? So,
Well, yeah, we most certainly have. We most certainly have. Another lockdown. I don't think anyone was expecting a second one.
well, they've been teasing it ever since the first one, haven't they? So it's all like the do as you're told, or we're locking you down again.
Yeah, but the prequel's never as good as
and,
the original, right?
You know. Well, it might be a Terminator, it might be an Aliens, it might be a Godfather.
No, that's very true.
The sequel might be better. It has been heard of.
A Shrek.
Shrek. Got you there.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. We've gone from some of the greatest films in the world and then Shrek.
Hey, let's not knock Shrek, all right?
Yeah,
Let's not get off on the wrong foot here.
All right. We'll start again. So how is COVID affecting you guys? Because obviously you guys have had to shut down the school. So obviously that's not the best of news for you.
Yeah, I mean, it's been so up and down this year because obviously January to March was going great. And then in March, we celebrated our 10-year anniversary. So luckily we were able to get those shows out. And I think we did... February was the 10-year anniversary. Did the first couple of shows in March, and we didn't get to do the final three that we normally do at the end of the month. And then we had to shut the school end of March through April, May, and June. And we could have actually reopened the school in June, but we made the choice of waiting until July just to see if things cleared up at all. Because overall, Nottingham actually wasn't that bad. It was one of the lowest cases in the country. So we didn't think there was any danger there. But regardless, we took a hell of a lot of safety precautions and spent quite a lot of money that obviously we wouldn't have had to do before, getting different things in just to make everyone feel comfortable, and up the safety factor. And this was for the more experienced students, because at first I didn't want to be having to be kind of being physical with 70 different people every week. Okay.
Yeah, I can imagine there's a bit of a risk involved in there.
Yeah. I mean, they're in groups of 4, okay, and then it moves to groups of 8. But in most of the time, they're only wrestling with 2-3 people in that session. Right. Whereas over the course of the week, I was the only one that was at risk.
Yeah, and I suppose, well, at least from what I remember when I was back in the day when I was trainers, some of the new guys didn't exactly come in with the best of hygiene either. So sometimes it was a little bit like, I'm going to put my head in this armpit. Probably not the best.
Yeah.
Best of
well, we didn't.
Got a pandemic on.
Yeah, I mean, we reserved it to the people that could pretty much already wrestle, so I could tell them what to do and give them pointers. And then in September, we brought back the beginners because, again, it was going fine. We did it in groups of 6. That was what the government said anyway. And, everything was going really well. And then suddenly Nottingham is the highest cases in the country. Unfortunately, we have 2 universities here, and come mid-September, an addition of about 100,000 people from other places.
Who would have guessed that universities might have lots of people and may spread this disease? I mean, who'd have known that, eh?
I know. And, since that happened, obviously everywhere the cases were going up. So we knew it was coming, but we just tried to get as much training in as possible. Luckily, much like with the first lockdown, we got some like in-house content shot. We've got a guy called Chris Garrett in Nottingham. Used to wrestle and do loads of other things under the name G-Man, and he's responsible for filming and editing. Pretty much, I'd say about 60% of the wrestling shows in England. And wow. he lives in Nottingham. He's a good friend. So just before the first lockdown, we did some in-house matches and kind of edited them together in episodes for YouTube, like on online content.
Oh, okay, I'm with you. So that you basically got your own sort of little pay-per-view things you can get out. And
I mean, we were able to do it. I don't want to compare us to NXT, but obviously we've got a really good facility. So a lot of other wrestling schools run out of someone else's place. And this is one of the reasons why we were able to open, is because we could control everything about the place, as far as who came in and what they were doing when they were in there. So during, I think it was August, we shot some other online content, and the aim was for that to finish mid-December, because we release one every week. I think we're only on episode 6 and we've got 13 filmed. And hopefully that would lead to us being able to do our Christmas shows. But I don't know whether that's going to happen.
Well, yeah. So if someone wanted, exactly. Everything crossed for you, mate. Everything.
Yeah, thank you.
So where can people go and watch these then, if they want to watch them?
Just subscribe to the House of Pain Wrestling YouTube channel. I share them on all the social media sources for House of Pain Wrestling anyway. So I'm sure if you put in House of Pain Wrestling, you'll find them, because I'm not sharing much else right now. So.
Well, I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll when this goes out, we will drop the link below as well, so that you guys can get hopefully get some followers from that as well. Not that we've got massive amount of followers, but someone might sit here and go, I want to go and watch some House of Pain. Let's
absolutely
jump on YouTube. No one's got anything better to do, have they, at the moment?
Well, you got a lot of time on their hands. I was saying before, like last week, like some of my students are like, oh, did you see the latest one of this or this? And I'm like, I just don't have the time to watch it all.
Yeah.
And now we do.
Yeah. That's the sad truth, isn't it? It's like, we were all looking to watching Tiger King when the first one came around.
I'm still trying to find my Lockdown 2 series. As Lockdown 1 was Tiger King. I wonder what Lockdown 2 is going to bring.
Oh,
probably nothing anywhere near as entertaining as the Tiger King. That show was crazy.
Yeah. Well, they did a follow-up, didn't they? And it just wasn't that good.
Yeah, that was the kind of pre-recorded. It was kind of a bit like this, wasn't it? Where they just spoke to people afterwards, and no one knows. Yeah. But he was the guy, weren't he? He was the one you wanted to watch, and he's the one you can't watch.
I don't think they let the cameras in prison, unfortunately. So
maybe they should, though. Maybe they should. Yeah. Maybe he'll be on. There's like young offender shows where they send them into prison scared straight. Is that what they're called?
Oh yeah.
Scared straight.
Send them into to meet the Tiger King might be an interesting episode.
Well, we've had guys like Louis Theroux, haven't they? They've gone into prisons.
Yep.
And stuff.
Behind bars.
Yeah. And Ross Kemp seems to be down with the gangs in the local area.
Yeah.
So I'm sure.
That's very true. He's kind of disappeared a little bit as well, isn't he?
Who's that?
Ross Kemp. Yeah, you don't want to see some. I don't know if it's just because I don't watch regular telly anymore. That you just don't see him that often. But yeah, he's kind of disappeared a little bit. He was like the guy at one point, wasn't
he? Yeah, he was the English hard man, wasn't he? Now they get Jason Statham or something like that.
A legit hard man.
Yeah.
Every time I think of him, I always think of him in Extras. He pretends to be a hard man.
Yeah.
And he breaks down at the end.
He's really sensitive.
Every time. Yeah.
I remember my sister always used to say she can't watch Grant cry on EastEnders because it's just too emotional. That's my sister, not me.
Okay,
No.
all right, okay. If you say so. If you say so.
I have to
Yeah.
say, I love the name of the podcast, by the way.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Very,
I can't even remember how we come up with it. It just kind
really?
of, yeah, one day we were just talking about something and said, oh, we need to do a podcast. And then I don't think the name just appeared. And I'm
Excellent.
not quite sure where it come from, but
Yeah.
it was it must have come to me in a dream or a nightmare. I'm not sure which one it is yet.
See, I personally feel bad because I have never used chalk in my life. So,
No.
Oh, there's more chalk in our gym than there is gym equipment, I think.
Straps and hooks. Well, yeah. Straps and hooks, yes. Not chalk, though. Maybe I should give it a go.
See, in competition, you can't use straps unless it's a strongman competition.
Yeah.
So we have to sort of train to make sure that we can grip the bar properly. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to
Of course.
compete. So
If you can't grip it, you don't get the lift.
Yeah. I like all of the like on the World's Strongest Man, all of the equipment is just half white. Just because of the chalk that flies off everyone's
and
hat.
they're also using like triple ply suits and straps at the same time. So it's not even just chalk. They're essentially just welded into that bar.
Yeah, something that I don't get. Especially when it comes to the deadlift record, that's something people in the UK seem to care about a lot. It's Thor and Eddie fighting over the records.
Yeah.
But when Benny done it all those years ago, Benny Magnuson, he pulled it without a suit and straps. So he did it fully raw. And now a guy chucks on a singlet made of seatbelts and claims the world championship. But I just don't get how people don't comprehend that that's not the same lift. It's completely different.
Yeah, I think Britain are the best at like overhyping achievements, though, aren't they?
That is true.
They'll always revert back to the oh yeah, but we've got this guy.
Oh yeah, but during the war.
Do you know that England beat Germany at the World Cup once?
Really?
Yeah, just once.
That's a conspiracy theory right there.
Can you remember what year that was?
I can't because I'm just not a football fan.
I thought you were going to say, oh, I don't know.
Oh, I generally did not know.
1966.
Was it? Before the first moon landing?
Never happened.
There you go. Miracles can happen. We can land on the moon and we can win the World Cup. Hey ho. Who'd have thought it?
See, I'm not a conspiracy theory when it comes to the moon landing, but I do think it's weird that 2001 Space Odyssey came out the year before the first moon landing, and that movie just looks too good.
Oh,
sorry, go on.
That was the original robot loses its mind and takes over human film, wasn't it? So
yeah,
we're well on the way with that one.
We're getting there.
Oh yeah, 100%. To be fair, we could do with being replaced by something that's not going to destroy the rest of the planet, but hey ho.
Yeah, I agree. Maybe a new prime minister.
New prime minister, and we may have we're not going to have a new president, but they probably like to think that we're going to have a new president. But it's looking more and more likely that Biden's going to get in, so that'll be interesting times over there. Kind of glad I don't live there.
Depends how many times he gets dragged through the courts, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, 100% that's going to happen. He's already starting legal battles now, isn't he? Saying that he's suing somewhere for...
Yeah. Well, like Trump saying, we're going to go straight to the Supreme Court. It's like, that's not how it works, Donald.
He is in his world. He has the money. He has the hair. He does what he wants.
It's like after 4 years of running this country, we'd think you'd have a grasp on the legal system by now. But
He's barely even got a grasp on Twitter. He's not going to have a grasp on the legal system.
He's my favorite Twitter person.
Oh, he's brilliant.
Oh, definitely.
Right.
Yeah.
I can see him doing stand-up after this, can't you?
Yeah. You see the tweets for all of like 30 seconds before they delete them.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's only because Twitter can't bring themselves to ban the president of the United States.
I like how they always put a caveat on his tweets, like, this isn't fact what he's saying. It's like, he's the president of the United States. And Twitter is the one that's calling him out.
I'm surprised he's still got a tick. You know, like the verification ticks. There's so many people, like, they won't give it to OJ Simpson. So OJ Simpson's got like 2 million followers, but they will not give him a blue tick. Like, yeah, well, let's not give this murderer a blue tick, but we'll keep the president with a blue tick.
The moment he loses the presidency, that tick.
Yeah, well, he'll just be off, won't he? They'll just like, get rid of him, take him off Twitter. We don't need him anymore. Entertainment's done. So, talking of names, because you quite nicely pointed out that you like the podcast name, I'm very intrigued to know where the name Stixx come from.
Yeah. I used to play the drums.
That's
That is
fantastic.
not what I was expecting the answer to.
That's exactly what I wanted it to be.
Yeah. I used to play the drums in a band, and the guitarist used to jokingly call me Stixx because I always used to break them. And when it came time to pick a wrestling name, my first character was like a Ross Kemp, like a London Thug type character, and there was 3 or 4 of us like in a group, and we said around the time Lock, Stock and Snatch were all the rage, and everyone had these like catchy little nicknames to do with, I don't know, the way they hurt people or the way they collected money or whatever it was. So my tag partner at the time was he lived in the flat next door to me in London, and his name was Pliers. He carried around the big, almost like garden shear,
Like the
style.
British beefcake style.
And at first I wanted to be called Verbal after Kevin Spacey's character in Usual Suspects.
Oh, glad you didn't pick that one.
Well, mainly because I always thought I'd be really good on the microphone, like talking in front of crowds and stuff like that, until I realized I wasn't. So
I feel that.
I could have taken the Verbal name like he did, because he doesn't really talk a lot, right? But Stixx just sounded, snappy, and then
Is that pun
when
intended?
me and it wasn't, but thank you.
Got the dad jokes on the go.
Then when me and what's his name in NXT now, Danny Burch.
All right,
Stixx and Stone.
Yep, he was actually wrestling as Joe Riot at the time.
Oh, okay.
And he specifically changed his name to Martin Stone so that we could be Stixx and Stone. And we took Dean Ayers on as a manager.
Yep.
And he was the one who actually told me about the Greek mythology of the River Styx, like where you go through, you have to cross the River Styx to enter hell. So we came up with the gimmick of placing the silver coin on our opponent's forehead, like after we won, as like symbolic. And Stixx by itself was always just enough until maybe 2007, when me and Martin didn't really team anymore, because it was the London Thug gimmick. It was Stixx and Stone, so just Stixx made sense. But then after that, just Stixx just kind of wasn't enough. And I was always taught that your wrestling name, if it appeared on a poster with no picture of you, it should already give fans an idea of what to expect.
I've never heard that before. That's
so
really interesting.
Stixx doesn't really say anything. So someone said to me, you need a nickname. I guess like Sting, like I used to always get introduced like Sting, like this is Stixx. Just because I knew the ring announcer just saying Stixx. Okay, it was just over so quickly. I've never been that good with coming up with like names for stuff like nicknames and move names and stuff like that. Other people have a brain wired for that. And one of my trainees at the time was, and I asked him for just a bunch of nicknames, and one of them was House of Pain. And I really liked, the ring of that. And it was Dean Ayers who said, add heavyweight onto it.
Yep.
So the heavyweight House of Pain, you put that on a poster, you got heavyweight, you got Pain. I was always a heel at the time, so it made sense. And maybe not as a baby face, as a good guy. It sounds a bit I don't know, painful. That was a pen. That was a pun. And
I mean, you're so
slowly-
over now in the UK. I mean, everyone knows pretty much who you are. So I suppose the name kind of, even if you're playing a face,
yeah,
people are fine with that. They're not going to sort of look at you and go, well,
yeah. Well, I mean,
uh,
one of the companies I worked for started calling me the Action Man, which is
missing a scar for that.
which is quite funny because there was a time around, I'd say about 2011, 2012. Like my wife now hit the nail on the head. I was always a bit confused as to why, when I was a heel and I wrestled certain baby faces, certain good guys, that the crowd seemed a little bit reluctant to boo me at times, you know. And she hit the nail on the head in saying that, you know, because, well, back then, like a lot of British wrestling was still kind of building their bodies up, or in fact, they didn't give a damn how they looked. When I come out, you know, especially the kids kind of see someone like what they'd see on TV, you know,
Yeah.
like
And that kind of larger than life character that you don't normally see walking down the street.
yeah. And because of the mohawk, you know, my wife said, if you gave an 8-year-old or a 10-year-old a bit of paper and said, draw a wrestler, you know, it would probably look like you, like different hairstyle, you know, just big, you know, whatever. And I was like, okay, especially when I used to carry the chain as well, you know, it was quite a good, like a solid look, you know.
Yeah.
And unless the baby face was kind of on their game and good, you know, and knew what to do with the crowd, there'd be that sense of they just want me to murder the baby face, which is never the kind of reaction you want.
Not what you want as a heel at all, is it?
Yeah. So because she, you know, said you look like a kind of Action Man figure, you know, the promoter started calling me Action Man Stixx, you know.
Do you come with the optional karate chop action?
Yep. I still want from Austin Powers as my finisher.
You got those really shifty eyes as well, though.
I was just about to say that, the little back of the head shifty eyes.
Yeah.
And much like an Action Man, I only move in 3 different ways. But yeah, that's essentially how the name came about.
So when did it sort of all start for you then? Like, as in, when did you fall in love with wrestling? Were you very young? Were you older?
God, my first pay-per-view was the 1990 Survivor Series, and you know, I referenced the first baby faces I ever saw were Texas Tornado, Legion of Doom, and the Ultimate Warrior.
Yeah.
You know, how could a kid not fall in love with wrestling after seeing that? You know,
Exactly.
the tassels, the face paint, the shoulder pads, you know, whatever it was, you know, it went off from there. And I got into, like, I guess I always wanted to be a wrestler, but it was always an American thing to me, you know. I didn't even know British wrestling existed, which back then I think a lot of people were in the same boat, you know, unless there was a local show that you followed, which were few and far between, you know, in the year 2000. But then I bought WOW magazine. It was World of Wrestling magazine.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And
I
they had
remember
a small
that.
section.
Wow.
Yeah, you remember that?
Yeah.
They had a small section dedicated to British wrestling. And that's where I found Hammerlock down in Kent. And me and Pliers, who I referenced to earlier, went down there for a few sessions. Unfortunately, on the second session, he dislocated his thumb about 15 minutes into it.
Oh,
And
nice.
he couldn't continue anymore. And because he was my ride home, he basically couldn't continue anymore. So we had to go. But yeah, I mean, a lot of great wrestlers have come out of Hammerlock, you know, and affiliated schools over the years. But it kind of came off like, give me your money and I'll teach you a couple of things, and then just let you do what you want for X amount of time. And I actually joked with the teacher, John Ryan, his name was, a couple of years later when I saw him like on the scene, and I said, "Do you remember when you called me over and told me my clothesline was crap on my first session?" He was like, "I don't remember that." I
Well,
was
you
like, "Yeah, yeah." He taught me a lock up and a wrist lock, and then just told us to pair up and wrestle. And I didn't know what the hell I was doing, so I hit a clothesline, and he called me over and went, "Our close time was crap." I was like, "Okay."
Cheers, mate.
you're going to give me any advice on making it better? No,
Yeah.
it was just crap.
No.
But I did thank him though, because when I got put in charge of the school originally, um, it was a prototype of how not to teach people. You know, so yeah, I made my school kind of very learn heavy. You know, like you're going to school. You know, school is made for learning.
Do you
Okay,
think
no
that
matter.
was your driving factor?
It was one of them. Yeah, it was one of them. Like, I mean, wrestling schools, like I said, were few and far between back then. So you'd bounce around a few, and you realise that not a lot of them are actually teaching much.
No.
You know?
If
And
anything,
I, I,
sorry,
took,
go ahead.
I took great pride, like from the time I took over the school in 2006, sorry, um, just to make sure that however long you're there, you're learning the whole time. Okay, other than when you get to put what you've learned into practice, you know, and the teaching's developed over time as well. I became I never wanted to be a teacher. you know Maybe a PE teacher. I wanted to be a PE teacher, so I guess it's kind of the same. But yeah, I just kind of fell into the role because I just happened to be the most experienced person there. I probably shouldn't have been teaching at the time, from a experience point of view, but if I hadn't, then someone far less experienced would have taken the role, and God knows how some people would have ended up after that.
Yeah, I
So
mean, you tend to find in the UK as well, there is a lot of, there's few and far between of people like yourself that want to make the industry better. They just see it as this is a way of making money.
I
And
think,
sorry, go
I
on.
think, yeah, I think now there are quite a few. Um, you've got Rampage up in Newcastle, and you got Primate up that way as well.
Yep.
They take good care. You've got Zach Gibson and James Drake in Liverpool, along with Dean Allmark now in Liverpool. You got Sam Bailey in Manchester. You got Joel Redmond down in Stafford. Lincoln Fight Factory. Paul Malin actually runs the Inspire School in
Oh, I've
Derby.
got so much time for Paul. He's
Yeah,
such a
yeah.
good guy.
Joe Connors runs the Elevation School in Leicester.
Same with Joe. Again, a lot of time for him.
So, there's probably more like good teachers around who actually care about your progression more than ever now. I mean, there's still some Mickey Mouse ones, but I think because the British scene is so big now,
Mm-hmm.
you've got, what's the word? You've got something to look at online, when you're searching for a school,
Yeah.
who's the teacher? Oh, he's the teacher. And even if you might not have heard of them, you can put their name in and read all about them.
Get their catalogue.
Yeah, and I mean, it's one of my proudest achievements as a teacher. That 3 of my students have gone on to open their own schools. So it actually feels quite nice.
I mean, you have to have probably one of the most established schools in the UK because you've been around for a long time.
Yeah, I think establishment is just about time, to be honest, because, take James Drake and Zach Gibson, for example. They run Fighting Spirit up in Liverpool, and they're both very established wrestlers. They're signed to NXT now, okay, or NXT UK, whatever one. But as a school, they haven't had anyone yet to come out of the school, okay, to make the school look good, because that takes time. You've got to train up, you got to get experience, and then you got to get your name around. That could take that could take 5, 6, 7, 8 years, you know. But then you look at House of Pain, just because it's been around for so long. Like I said, like Paul Malin, Joe Connors, you know, signed to NXT UK. You got Gabriel Kidd over in New Japan now,
doing amazing work, absolutely amazing work.
Yeah,
absolutely awesome.
crushing it.
You got female called Kanji, who before she broke her arm in November was pretty much picking up every women's title in every company.
Wow.
You know, and you know, guys like that, you know, not all of them go to that kind of success, you know, but you got guys like Danny Chase, so LJ Heron, Diamond Dave, Carl Kingsley, you know, they just, you know, they're everywhere, you know.
Yeah.
And the one thing
that's probably
the one thing I've noticed
my proudest
about you
achievement.
from a teacher's point of view as well is you're not guarded of your students. You're not sort of like, well, they're mine, you're not having them. You're the opposite. You're almost like straight onto Instagram or, you know, social media, and you're saying, you guys have got to look out for these. What, you know, you need to book them. These guys are great guys. And that, I mean, when I was around, that didn't really happen. Everyone kind of was in a little sort of defensive bubble of their own guys, and you know, didn't really want to pass it around. And
I think a lot of teachers back then didn't want their students going to other schools because maybe they were worried that they would be told that they've been learning wrong. And pick up on the mistakes and stuff like that. But I mean, it's not a one-way street. You know, I really like do as much as I can, you know, to help out the students. But the moment they get their name out there, you know, it suddenly makes the school look good. You know, it's like, where were you trained? I was trained here. Boom, there's another, you know, tick in the box for House of Pain. You know, so it works well that I can be proud of them, but they can also be proud of where they came from as well. And luckily, because I'm an old dog and I've been around for like 20 years now or something, you know, if they end up wrestling someone that they've never met before, and the person says to them, like, where did you train or who trained you? You know, they mention me or the school, and instantly they let their guard down. Okay. Like, oh, okay, well, he must be good then, you know, and, you know, stuff like that, you know, works very well for them. You know, I remember Carl Kingsley was at a show. I can't remember which one, but I think it was Jimmy Havoc, you know, came up to him like, so where did you train? Kind of thing, you know, like, you know, being a bit of a, you know, snub-nosed vet, so to speak. You know, so where did you train? Where did you come from? It's like, oh, House of Pain Stixx. And apparently instantly, oh, cool. Like, you know, straight away, like, oh, okay, you must be good then. Like, cool, as you were, you know.
You're accepted now, son. Carry on.
Yeah. Like stuff like that, you know, stuff like that feels good, you know, like, and it kind of maybe moves them through the ranks a little quicker, or they get opportunities that they might not have got before, you know, however it helps them, you know, it can only be a good thing, you know.
Yeah, I mean, when we wrestled, have we ever heard anyone just like, yeah, well, they're at House of Pain? There was never I'm not sure I want to wrestle this guy. It was like, they're not going to be here unless they're good enough to be wrestling. So
yeah, I'm sure there are a few out there that will say, "Oh, House of Pain," oh, fucking hell, all right, but they're probably ones that,
no one gives a
fuck.
They're
probably just ones that never really put the time in, you know, to earn the time back. You know what I mean? Like, I'll always give more time to the people who are putting more time in. Okay, because that's the way it works. You know, if someone's at training half-assing something, you know, then they ask for advice, and I say, well, you've got to be more than half-assed. Like, if you want to get to this person's position and they don't listen and they don't like that kind of advice, then they're going to walk away saying, oh, I asked him for advice once and he didn't give me anything good. You know, he sucks.
Yeah.
You know? It's the way of the world, though.
Yeah, exactly. Something that comes with the being a trainer, I suppose, is you know, you've got to realize. I think the problem is with a lot of people, especially when they first start wrestling, is they don't realize that what they're doing what they watch on telly is something that these guys have done for years. They've perfected for a long time, and they don't want to go there and they want to have fun. And I'm not saying you shouldn't have fun, but at the same time, you have someone else's life in your hands. So you have to make sure that what you're doing is safe and you're competent enough to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I always say to everyone, this is a hobby until it turns into a job, and if you're lucky to be one of the ones that can turn it into a job, then great, but you've got to remember that you have loads of other people who would also like to turn it into a job that you're competing with. So the time you put into your hobby is going to be the thing that helps you make it a job, and it just confuses me sometimes. Like if I was in a band, I was in a band, but if I was in a band now, with the practice I have, playing the drums or playing the guitar, well, the only practice I get being when we're playing on stage.
Exactly.
Like we'll be in,
example.
We'll be in the practice room, making it tight. But then I'd also be at home, probably playing my instrument by myself, to get better at it, but not just to get better at it. It was my chosen hobby. I probably enjoy it, so I just don't get people that only do shows, and then they still come up and ask for feedback, but then they're going to put that feedback into practice when they do their next show. They're not going to go away and get to a school and say, well, someone said I need to work on this, so I'm going to work on this here so that when I perform on a show next time, it's better, rather than this, I've got to do it live on the night and get better at something. That's impossible when you've got so much else going on around you,
Yeah. And what if that feedback is, you need better ring conditioning?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to do that every time I wrestle. That's all I'm going to do. I'm not going to do any better. I'm not going to go to the gym. You need the gym. Fuck that shit.
Yeah.
I'll go out for a jog once a week.
Hell no. But I think, wrestling's about looking a certain way. Okay. It's not necessarily looking completely lean and like an athlete. If that's what you're trying to portray, then that's how you've got to look. But I mean, I've got a guy at my school that even though he's lost a ton of weight since he's been there, he still must be around 400 pounds, I think.
Wow.
But he has more heart and drive than 80% of the people there. He might not be able to do something, but he'll always do his damnedest and give it a go.
Yeah.
Like even when people say, well, you'll never do this, so you don't have to learn it. Right. He'll respond with, well, I might not never do it, but I still want to know it. Stuff like that really ticks more boxes than someone who's physically gifted that just walks into the school and can do everything first time, because a lot of the time that comes along with a cocky attitude that can rub people the wrong way. And, you've got to work with these people, even if they're not very fond of you because you're a bit of a arse, then, is it actually going to work very well?
Yeah, I know that feeling oh too well. Not because I was really good at anything, just because I'm an arse. So talking of that, can you remember when you very first met Scott? I'm guessing the fact that you introduced yourself on this podcast to him, and he said, I'm introducing myself, unless I've already met you. It'd be very interesting to find out if you can remember where you very first met him. Because you've met him a very, very long time ago.
Oh, do you know the year? I don't know the year.
I'm
going to say 2005.
Was it EAW?
No, long before.
Was it EAW?
No, before EAW, I think, really existed.
Yeah.
I kind of feel bad. I kind of feel bad now.
Yeah, I think it was while you were part of, was it Hierarchy with Alex Shane?
Oh, up at Future Shock.
Yeah. I think it was while you were doing that sort of period of time, which I think was 2004, 2005.
Right. Bloody hell.
Come on, Scott, fill him in. This will be quite an interesting story.
That's a long time ago.
It was at WAR, so Wrestling Association of Rugby.
Whoa.
And I was
Oh,
Fat Santa.
the Christmas show.
That was me. Yeah.
Oh, really? Oh, shit.
Yeah. Alex Shane ripped me a new arsehole because
No
I
way.
kept playing with my beard.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah, you kept putting your beard, didn't you?
Yeah. I think at the time, how old was I? Must have been 13.
Yeah, 13, 14.
Oh,
Couldn't be
really?
any older.
Yeah, I was very young then. Yeah.
Wow.
And
'Cause
yeah,
that was my that was when I was with my ex-wife,
okay,
who I believe might have valeted us that night.
possibly.
I know it was me and Alex against Spud and RJ Singh.
Yep.
Or Ross Jordan. Like if he was RJ Singh then, I can't remember. And I remember Spud hitting me with the frog splash at the finish and just thinking, how can someone so small weigh so much? Like when he landed on me, it was just I've had people 3 times his size like hit me softer, like with a splash.
He didn't break his fall, he just used you. That's all it was.
Oh yeah, like
There's no hands, no knees down, just
yeah. Seems to be a common occurrence now, unfortunately. It's like, he's big, he'll be able to take it. It's like, look, I don't want to take it.
yeah, I like my ribs.
Yeah, so you can still protect me a little bit.
That's the fun in that.
Oh no, that's a blast from the past. Yeah, that would have been Christmas 04.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would have been. Yeah, it would have been 2004.
Yeah, because it was around the time where Spud started to break out onto the scene a little bit. And his kind of coming out year was 2005, when he ended up doing the Coventry Sky Dome with
I actually have that on DVD.
Oh, really?
I do, yeah. International Showdown.
Ah, it was, wasn't it?
Yeah, the very first one, not the second one.
Was that International Showdown?
Yeah, it was him, Chris Sabin.
That's right. Yeah, him, Petey Williams, Chris Sabin, and Johnny Storm.
That was it.
All right, yeah.
International Showdown, yeah.
Someone mentioned that match to me a couple of weeks ago as well. I can't remember who, but I just remember it was a real blast from the past. Now, I remember the show before at the Coventry Sky Dome was the FWA one. I think it was British Uprising 3. And he kicked it off in a triple threat with RJ Singh and Aviv Mayan.
I know, I have that too.
Yeah.
I'm sure I've got these knocking about somewhere in here.
Someone with Terry Funk on it.
Yes, it is. Because that was when, like, for us, because you used to get what was the wrestling show, the TV channel called?
Oh,
Wrestle Talk, wasn't it? Like
no, before Wrestle Talk.
Oh, really?
The wrestling channel
on Sky.
I think it was just called the Wrestling Channel.
It may well have been. I think that was when you first started seeing like FWA would have shows put on there.
Yeah.
And it was just like, whoa, these guys are British. This is like an American show, and I'm seeing it on telly. This is bizarre.
That was the start of the kind of upward motion, I think.
Yeah.
It was just the right group of guys, at that time. They could hang with the Americans that everyone was watching on these traded videotapes and DVDs. And suddenly we had our own crop now.
I mean, you had Jodie Fleisch and Johnny Storm in ROH and just going up there and ripping it up. And everyone's just like, who are these guys?
It's still their match at CZW is still my favorite cruiserweight match ever.
That 720 DDT, I remember watching that over and over again when I was younger, because it was just like, I want to be Jodie Fleisch. I went to the point where like my trousers were tucked into my kick pads. I did the whole thing. It was like, I've got to do Asai moonsaults everywhere. I can't come down to the ring in a normal way.
Yeah.
There has to be flips involved.
You seen him now?
I can't remember the last time I seen him.
If you go and look online now, like he is massive. He's packed on probably another 20 pounds of muscle.
Yeah, I mean, he was pretty big last time I seen him.
Yeah.
He was because he retired
That's right.
and then he come back, and when he come back, he was a hell of a lot larger than he was before.
Can still move just like he used to as well.
It's
Yeah.
crazy,
It's
isn't it?
insane. Well, it's like when you
So many great memories back, mate. You really have.
when you put Pac, Adrian Neville, you know, you see him when he first broke out and he was like skinny as hell.
Well, we watched him when he was just doing the backyard stuff. He used to have that little. He used to have a show where it was just some mats and a jump horse from gymnastics.
Yeah.
I can't remember what was the name of it. He had and he used to release a lot of his like do music videos around him. Do you remember like MV
really?
a thing, weren't they? Like lots of before you could really get proper wrestling on the telly from the indie stuff.
Jump on Kazar and do your MVs.
And
Every day looking for the new ones.
Yeah, and then you watch him now and you just think, how? Like what?
Yeah.
Absolute tank.
And he can still do it all as well.
That's the bit that I can't understand. Is it's like you're probably what, I don't know, 40 pounds heavier than you were before of solid muscle, and you can probably move better than you could when you were skinny.
I think it's more like things like gymnastics training kind of teach you to really control your body, but because you're putting your body under so much kind of strain, your muscles, like they're just growing naturally.
Yeah.
You know? And as long as you, I mean, don't stop doing it, put 40 pounds of muscle on and then assume you can still do it, you know. But if you're doing it whilst you're putting the muscle on, I think your body just adapts.
Yeah.
I think that's my problem, is that I've stacked on a good amount of size compared to what it was before.
Yeah.
But sometimes I think, could I go back to wrestling? Could I do it? And then I think, I think I'd be really good if I went back and done it.
Yes,
I think if I spent 10 seconds in the ring, I'd be on the floor gasping for air.
It's like, I'm about, what, 350 pounds? I could probably beat you in a conditioning workout.
Oh, yeah, 100%. 100%. Pound for pound, strength-wise, questionable. But conditioning-wise, yeah, you're definitely... because I've not done it, I've had no reason to be conditioned anymore. It's just... lift weights and get big. Well, not big. I mean, I only weigh, what, 79 kilos, 80 kilos, that kind of mark. But yeah, I look back at it and I just think, I think I'd do it. And then I'd be like, yeah, I remember the reason why I stopped.
We saw a lot of that after the first lockdown, you know, because I mean, some of the drills that I run at the school, they're not easy, you know.
We've done them.
Do you know what? One of the worst drills we ever did was Gabriel Kidd. We went to an LCD training at LCW when it was still around. And we went and he did the class because Joe was busy, because he was, he's crazy busy at the moment. Well, at the moment, it's many years ago, but I think it was just kind of as the NXT stuff was sort of starting to build up a little bit, or it just happened.
Yep.
Sure.
It
And
was post the tournament, just post the first tournament.
Yes, you're correct. It was just after the tournament. And mate, I couldn't even make it past his warm up, let alone the whole class.
What was it? It was 600 air squats.
Yeah, he basically got everyone in the class to do 10 squats, and then as you did it, you had to then pass it on to the next person. So everyone had to count 10.
Well, I mean, over time, I think Gabe got very inspired by the Japanese way of warming up. The thing is with me, like, I've got a good side and a bad side. Okay, because when you come to wrestling school, to me, you can do squats at home, you can do push-ups at home. Okay, so I'm not going to calisthenic you into the ground, you know. I'll do a few, you can do a few to get your legs warm and just to get your blood going. Okay, but all of my drills are based around wrestling movements. Okay, because that is the thing that you can only do at a wrestling school. I mean, you try doing that down Pure Gym, you'll probably get banned. You know,
if you try deadlifting at Pure Gym, you probably get banned.
But yeah, like I think guys like Joe and Gabe, you know, because of where they wanted to go or where they did end up, you know, they were brought in for a specific reason, you know, to give the people who might also want to go that route maybe a bit of a shock as to how much effort you need to put in to get to that, you know. Now I say obviously you can do the squats at home, the push-ups at home and stuff. It's, you know, obviously whether you do or not, you know. And we've got a fully kitted out gym at the school, you know. If anyone needs any help, because a lot of trainees, when they first start, they've got anxiety issues, you know, they're quite a bundle of nerves. So walking into any gym, you know, is quite a nerve-wracking experience. Okay, mainly if you don't know what you're doing, you know. You feel like everyone's looking at you, especially if it's like losing weight. You know, you feel like everyone's looking at you, like laughing at you, like, oh, that guy doesn't know what he's doing, you know. So I'll take him into the gym and I'll show him what to do. You know, I'll take him through like the proper form and stuff like that. And essentially say to them, you can train in this gym for as long as you want to, okay, until you are comfortable to go to a gym nearer to your house, you know. And I don't charge them or anything for it, you know. I just want them to start training because I know it will benefit them mentally. I know it will benefit them and make them better at this chosen hobby that they want to do. And again, like it goes both ways. You know, if they're, you know, not in great shape and they get a show or a match outside of the school, you know, I want them to stand out. I want them to look good. You know, I want them to, I want people to look and go, man, that guy's in good shape, or, you know, that guy's got a great gas tank, or whatever it is. You know, stuff like that matters, especially nowadays, you know.
Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting you've said that, because literally the whole reason we started this podcast was for that specific reason. So we realized that when you go to a gym, that although you may have an induction, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're confident in what you're doing. And there might be exercises that you're not sure about, or there may be routines you're not sure about. So the whole point of us starting this was that so people could ask these questions to us without having to feel judged. And we can say, you know, we can give what advice we know. Normally we have Chris with us, who couldn't make it tonight, but he's a qualified personal trainer. So he obviously can give specific advice to what to do. But it's quite interesting that you've kind of took that approach to sort of say, you know, I understand where you guys are coming from, and I'm gonna guide you, and once you're confident enough, you can go off and do this wherever you want to. Because I just don't think that happens anymore. I just think that people get very nervous going into a gym. It's very hard for someone to ask a question because they think, oh, I'm going to look stupid if I ask this question.
Sure.
But I think the realism is that pretty much everyone's in that boat at some point. And if you're there lifting with somebody else or with someone you've never met, you're in there for the same reason. There's maybe, 0.1% of people who are going to be in there who are going to be arrogant assholes and don't want to help you. But I would say most people would be more than happy to just be like, look, if you want me to help you, I can show you how to do it. If you don't want me to, that's fine as well. I don't think most people are in there to judge, but especially with a wrestling school, you know, you're going into somewhere where there's some big intimidating guys, and you think it's going to be as scary as shit until you get to know these guys, and you think, well, they're just guys. They're not these personas you see online. They're just a guy.
It's funny you should say that, because I've always found that the nicest guys or ladies in the gym are in the spit and sawdust gyms, you know, and they're the ones that, to an outsider, are probably the most intimidating ones to go into. 100%. You know, you go into a pure gym or a gym group, and no one will even bat an eyelid at you. You know, you'll ask, you know, can I jump in on you? You know, can I jump in with you on a set? Or, you know, how can I get this part of my body bigger, or whatever it is? And they either won't know, or they won't give you the time of day, or they'll charge you for it, you know? Whereas I think a lot of the people that go to those spit and sawdust type gyms really appreciate where they started, you know, and they just like the fact that you're in there asking questions, you know, because they probably asked the same questions to someone one day.
Yeah, and they're in there with exactly the same passion you've got, and that's fitness. And that's kind of what we wanted to do with this, was try and bring a community together of people to be able to come and feel comfortable to ask questions. And what we like about the fact that we've got you on, for example, as our first guest, is you have a sporting background, you also run a gym, so you understand exactly the sort of things that people will come across and the, you know, the issues. I know you've had a few students in the past who have really struggled with anxiety around other people, and wrestling and being in the gym has made a difference to those kind of people. And that's what we want to encourage. We want to encourage more and more people to get involved and physical fitness, because what it does for your mind as well as your body is massive.
Well, I mean, 2000, before I started wrestling and before I started training in the gym, I was a completely different person to what I am now. You know, I've struggled with those issues, maybe not as much as some people, you know, but I've seen how much it's helped me. And, you know, I'll be the first to admit that in the, say, 19, 20 years that I've been training, the first 8 or 9 of those years, I really didn't know what I was doing. You know, I did, you know, the effort was there, you know, but the knowledge maybe wasn't, you know. And when we were back at the Notts County ground, you know, when the wrestling school was at the Notts County football ground, there was a personal trainer there. Like, we had a wrestling room and he had the room next door, and that was his personal training room. And he kind of took me under his wing a little bit and almost made me like a his what do you call it? Like, I was going to say pet monkey, but that's probably the wrong word.
I know what you mean.
Yeah, like his trial monkey.
Like,
you know?
you're a project to him.
Yeah. And he taught me a lot of like the proper training techniques, you know, and things that would make me better athletically, you know. And it was then that I realized that the only thing that makes you better in the gym a lot of the time is knowledge. You know, it's like anything, you know, you have to study, you know, you have to find out what you're doing, you know. I mean, I can't drive, for example, you know, so if I just got into a car right now, I can't be angry with myself that I don't know how to drive this car. You know, someone's got to tell me how to drive this car, and then I've got to trial driving the car, you know, over and over again, maybe with a few bumps, maybe with a few crashes in there, you know, but eventually I'll know more about it, you know. And that's essentially what happened from, say, probably about 2009 on to probably about 2014. Okay, I was kind of going by that method. Like, I know what to do now. I know different ways of doing it, you know, and I'm getting really good results out of it. But then when I stopped wrestling, okay, for those 15 months, I really almost like I went from driving the car to studying how to build the car.
Oh, okay, right, yeah, okay.
And that was like phase 3 as far as training and working out, really kind of going in depth with, you know, different techniques and different splits and different ways, you know, you can use the equipment, okay, at different angles and stuff like that. You know, I really took a deep dive into it, you know, which is why now I think I've always wanted to be a PT, you know, and I always wanted to be a PE teacher, you know. So with what I do now, I kind of have the best of both, okay, and it throws in the wrestling side as well, okay, which is the other thing I always wanted to be. And my ex-wife always, when I wanted to be a PT, when I wanted to study to be a PT, she always put me off the idea, you know. So I listened to her and I never went that way. And then when we split up, I was too kind of immersed in the wrestling side of things to have the time to do that sort of thing. But I think that's always kind of stayed with me, that I really wanted to do that, you know, for the reason of, you know, what we've been talking about. And, you know, I always say to people, look, I'm not qualified or anything like that. I'm just a guy who has been training for 19 years in different phases of my life. I can tell you what it's done for me, you know, but you don't have to take what I say as gospel. You know, what you've got to do is maybe listen to me a little bit at first, and then you've got to trial and error, you know, what is best for you. Okay. And then you've got to read up on things, you know, and find out like how you work out, you know. And that's why I think it's a lot like wrestling, in the sense of like, we're not all wrestling the same. You know, we don't all look the same. We don't wrestle the same. We don't act the same. Okay. So if we go into the gym and we only do the same exercises exactly the same way, then we're all going to end up looking the same. you know, and, you know, you guys know you train differently to get different results, you know, like the 400-pound guy that I was telling you about earlier, you know, he doesn't want to necessarily slim down. Okay. I mean, he will naturally because he's gone from not working out at all to working out 3 times a week and doing 2 wrestling classes a week. You know, so that kind of exercise, you're naturally just going to lose weight, okay, because you're moving more. But he is eventually, I think he's going to look a bit like Umaga, for example.
Okay, that kind of power, you know, got a good engine, may not look like they're, you know, the typical sort of 90s star wrestler, but got that sort of power, good engine, ready to go kind of guy.
Imagine
go, those kind of builds, those kind of.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm saying to him, you know, maybe don't focus on things like, I don't know, like side raises, you know, and stuff like that. Like stick with the compound lifts. Okay.
Yeah, squat, bench, deadlift, overheads, you know, get that power.
Yeah. Go heavy. Maybe go heavy, you know, 3 weeks out of the 4. And then just for that 1 week, kind of deload a little bit, you know, and go for repetitions and then go back to heavy, you know, kind of give your body a bit of a break, you know, on the heavy strain, you know, but still get some work in, you know, and then go back to heavy again for, you know, a couple of weeks. But yeah, he's feeling it. I think he's lost. I mean, lockdown, unfortunately, the first one wasn't very kind to him, you know, because he'll admit that he's a comfort eater, okay, and he wasn't able to get down to the gym to train. So over the previous year, he had probably lost about 3 or 4 stone, probably. And when he came back, I think he'd put 2 of those stone back on. And now, once again, you know, he's trying to knock that 2 stone off so he can pick up where he left off.
But he's still 2 stone down more than he was before.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, I mean, that's the other thing that people don't look at when they look at a fitness thing is that, you know, it isn't a graph that goes like this. It's a graph that goes like this.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's the point. Is that every time you're doing something, you're making yourself better. You're progressing that little bit. It might not be where you were 2 weeks ago, but it's better than you were yesterday.
Yeah, 100%. Let's say for me, you know, I'm someone that's
suffering. I mean, the thing I worry about.
Sorry,
go on, Scott.
Okay. Yeah, just for me, from my background, you know, I've suffered from anxiety and eating disorders and stuff like that growing up. You know, I was 200 kilo and I dropped down to 80 kilo. And at the minute, I'm sitting around about 150, 160. And that's all just because of, you know, sort of mental health issues. And it's getting in the gym and just making it so simple with the compound movements and having that plan and having that escape. It can just help so much for your mental health. And that's like the thing that we kind of try and focus on.
I think, I mean, I've never really kind of suffered from anything like mental health wise, for example. So some people would think that I'm not. I don't know what they go through, you know what I mean? But because so many of the students, you know, come from that background and I've been working with them for so long, you know, you do pick things up, you know. And the one thing that is universally true is a good workout where you've pushed yourself and you've achieved something, okay, will never make you feel bad.
Exactly.
Yeah, that is very true. Very, very true. I think as well, like from, I mean, a lot of, I don't know what, we'll get into your training and sort of routine in a minute, Stixx, just to see sort of where you come from a conditioning side of things as well as the strength building side of things. But a majority of the time we stick to pretty heavy, but low amount of reps. So, you know, I do a lot of hybrid training as it was. So a lot of the time I always start with a good compound movement and then I move on to a hypertrophy style of training just to complement what I've already done. So for example, if I do bench, I'll do a lot of cable crossovers. I'll do, you know, press push-ups, all those sort of things. But when you're doing those compound movements, especially if you're new to the gym or, for example, a bit like Scott, where, you know, you struggled a little bit with your mental health, with the compound movements it's so easy to see progression. Whereas I think when you just concentrate on hypertrophy and you know, going on the treadmill and concentrating on those numbers on the scale, you get put off so quickly because you don't realize that that's actually something that's going to take you many, many years to achieve what you want to. Whereas at least with the compound movement, when you're only doing 3 or 4 reps every week, you might be like, do you know what? I've gone up 1.5 kilos. I've gone up 2.5 kilos. I've gone up 10 kilos. I've gone up 20 kilos. Every week you're hitting a target you didn't hit last week.
No, I agree. I think at this point in my life, I'm kind of going the other way. You know, it's very rare that I'll do like the 5 sets of 5 kind of routine, for example. But I've always found that wrestling, especially like from my own personal perspective, there's 3 things that you've got to train for. You know, like you want to be strong because you don't want to risk dropping someone, you know, when you're in the ring, for example. But then you need endurance as well, because sometimes you'll be, you know, in a 6-minute match, and sometimes you'll be in a 25-minute match, you know, and you'll never be able to tell until you turn up at the show most of the time. So you got to be ready for anything. But then you want to look good as well. You know, you're going out in front of people, you know, the whole presentation factor, you know, you want to, you know, you just want to feel good and look good. Okay. And, you know, from my experience, that's training for like 3 completely different things. You know,
it's quite funny. We literally had this discussion the other day. It's like being a wrestler isn't, you know, you need to be conditioned like a boxer.
Yeah.
You need to be strength trained like a strongman. And, you know, you then need the bodybuilding aesthetics that you would get doing bodybuilding. It's a very strange combination.
Well, I mean, I'm quite lucky because obviously being the wrestling teacher as a job and having the gym at the school that I've kind of kitted out with equipment that I personally want to use, and then everyone else can use it if they want to. I mean, I'm not having anyone come into the gym and say, "Oh, you don't have this." You know,
I don't have it because I don't want it.
Yeah, I'll be like, well, go to, you know, get your ass to a gym where they do have one there. You know,
take notes.
But
I mean, I'm pretty sure you have a power rack, so that's fine by me.
I mean, I'm able to train 6 days a week now, just because I'm at the school every day anyway. So what I do is I just keep it down to movements. Like it's push, pull, legs, and then I'll take a day off. Okay. Or I'll do push, pull, legs, day off, and then push, pull, legs again, day off. And by doing that, because I get in 2 push days, 2 pull days, and 2 leg days a week, I can really mix up what I work with, you know, as far as the sets I'm doing, the reps I'm doing, the style, you know, of the exercise that I'm doing. For example, it was leg day today, so I'm glad I'm sitting down, and it'll probably be a lot harder to stand up.
Condolences for your quads.
R.I.P.
And like my last leg day, I do this routine that I got from Ep13 on.
I do love that guy.
Yeah, he's one of my workout gurus at the minute. I keep forgetting his name though.
Jason Cavalier.
It's at the beginning of every video is, "What's up, guys? Jeff Cavalier."
That's it, Jeff Cavalier. Yeah, you're right.
You have to go through the intro to get the name.
This is leg routine.
He's a big wrestling fan too, right?
He is, yeah. That's actually how I found him, because he trained Sting for his WrestleMania.
Oh, wow.
He did, yeah. And I think he's done some work with like Sheamus and a few other guys that kind of just drop in every now and then.
Yeah. And the thing I always liked about the Sting video was he was talking not just about the exercises that Sting was doing. He was talking about how his age and his injury kind of prone body, you know, after years of throwing himself around, it presents a challenge for him to be able to train him the best way, you know. And that's what I mean when I took the time out from wrestling, how I really started to kind of study, you know, the aspects of working out. It was that video that actually got my mind going a little bit, you know, because dare I say, in a few years, I might be in the same position.
No, never. Never. You'll be squatting until you're 80, mate. You'll be fine.
Oh, God. So, I mean, the leg routine I did on, what would it have been? What's the day? Friday. So it would have been maybe Monday or Tuesday. You take the two compound movements. Okay. So it would have been back squats and stiff leg deadlifts. Okay. And you start heavy on squats and you do 5 reps. Then you do another 5 reps. Then you lower the weight and do 10 reps. Then you lower the weight and do 20 reps. Okay. So I think with that, you get the power first, then you get like the middle ground, and then you get like real fatigue, like at the end. And then you do the stiff leg deadlifts the other way. So you start with the 20, then you go to 10, then you do 5, then you do 5, you know? So the compound movements, that's like my first like day of the week, whatever movements. The back one's a killer because you're doing it with deadlifts and chin-ups a lot of the time, you know. So doing 20 chin-ups is not an easy feat.
I don't think I can actually do 20 chin-ups.
Yeah, it's all right. I put the band under it.
I do exactly the same.
That helps me out a little bit.
I just think I weigh too much to be able to, for my little puny arms to be able to be pulling me up.
I always just do negatives.
Ah, yes.
Like half reps.
And then the chest is flat bench and dips, you know.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
So you take like the two kind of main movements that most people would say, you know, for those body parts. Sometimes I take out the deadlifts and do T-bar rows, like with the bars between your legs.
Yeah.
You know, 20, 10, 5, 5. But either way, you know, those workouts are starting off with two kind of solid, you know, exercises. Yeah. And you really feel it because you get, like I said, you get a little bit of power, a little bit of hypertrophy, and, you know, a lot of endurance, like with the 20 at the end. But then because I do another day that week, I can mix up the exercises that I do. I don't necessarily have to worry about, oh, I haven't done back squats this week, because I know I have, you know. Yeah. So today, what did I do? I did front squats. I did ball bridges on the Swiss ball, you know, when you roll and it really hits your hamstrings. Yeah. But I've got quite good at them now, so I do them one-legged. So,
all right, you show off.
my other leg's pointed to the sky as I'm rolling the ball in. And my friend Max, who has a gym in his garden, like, because he's a PT, it's all covered over with like a big marquee, you know, and he only lives down the road. So since professional sports people are still allowed to train, you know, at this point, I think after 19 years, I can claim to be a professional, you know, in what I do. So he can actually PT me, or even just let me use his gym and pretend he's PTing me, just so we can have a chat. And he actually introduced me to an exercise that I'd not done before on my legs, and that's sissy squats.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And like, I'm a big advocate of as many exercises that I can do stood up, you know, is a good thing. You know, even with bench press, I hate the fact that I have to lie down, you know.
You know, bit right.
Yeah. Like I almost feel like lazy kind of lying there. Like I could be moving more, you know. I could be making this more athletic.
We can put the bench on a treadmill if you'd rather. You can move your legs around.
And when it comes to legs, you know, I used to do the leg press, for example, you know, and maybe shy away from the squats, you know, and now the leg press is non-existent and the squats are always there. You know, I used to sit and do the leg extensions, you know, and, you know, now they're pretty much non-existent, you know, and income things like lunges a bit more, you know. Yeah. And I love working side to side instead of just back and forward. So doing things like side lunges where you're going almost into like Shawn Michaels pose,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah, back up.
you know, and going the other way, and then getting the resistance band around your legs and taking like little steps back and forward.
Yep.
You know, really burns up the side of your legs. And yeah, I'd never done sissy squats before, and he doesn't even have a rack like the way you attach your feet. It was just a bar against the cage. You rest your calf muscles against the bar, you know, and you sit into it.
Back, yeah, and then stand up. Yeah, that burn you feel is a different type of burn, right?
Yes, it really is, and I'm feeling that burn currently.
I mean, that's sort of similar to like when I was training a lot during lockdown. I would always start with squats, work up, do 3 sets of 3 or 5 sets of 5, but I always go straight off that into a superset. So what I would always do is then bring the weight right back down, maybe like 60, 70 kilos, not a lot. It would always be front squat, straight into narrow stance squat, and then straight into lunges. So it'd be 10, 10, and 10. That was some burn, I tell you. That was like, you know, when you get to the point where you could throw a penny off your leg and it's going to hit the ceiling. That's kind of that kind of...
Well, I mean, yeah, actually talking about kind of triple stack supersets, for example, like you just said, I actually got a really good one from Dana Lynn Bailey, like Miss Olympia. She's essentially one of my wife's idols, along with Wonder Woman. And
so, I think Rob Bailey might be one of my
Wonder Woman's a little bit harder to get hold of these days, I'll be honest.
We could just get the actress, right? And I mean, she said she always had a problem with her upper chest, you know, and this is basically the stage I was at around 2010, you know, where I was training, but I really didn't know what I was doing. And unfortunately, when I was training my chest, I was hitting my shoulders too much.
Yeah.
Yeah, get more front delt in there than
I didn't know how to isolate the chest.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And you know, I started to learn about it more, obviously, you know, when, you know, during like the 2010 to 15 time. And I saw her do this one where she's doing just 10 incline bench with dumbbells, so you can squeeze them together at the top, okay, and then it goes on to 10 of the plate raises, but you only go from like front chest diagonal, and you're just pushing the plate with your hands.
Okay? I know exactly what you're about.
The whole time. And then when I got off Jeff Cavalier was the dumbbell raise, you know, where you're bringing it across your body and you're trying to get your elbow in line with your sternum. And you can obviously do those single arm, and I've seen people do them on the cables, like in the gym. But being able to actually go across the center line, you know, really get you that squeeze, like on the muscles, and it really hits like the inner upper chest. So I just started doing that as like a triple superset. And then I started just making up my own things. And
that's almost exactly what lockdown did, was just, I mean, I've always had a really weak chest. So I've never had a full chest. I've never had a big chest. I've always wanted, you know, that nice crease you get down the center. And it never existed. It never existed until lockdown started.
Yeah.
And then I did exactly the same. So I would always start with a flat bench. So it would always be the same. It'd be like 3x3, 5x5. But then I would always superset from cables. So I'd always go cables high, mid, low, superset each one with press ups, and then go straight outside and do dips on the very last one to make sure that every angle of that chest is being hit. And that seemed to be what worked for me.
Yeah.
Just you know, the volume worked for me as opposed to just the pressing.
Yeah. There was two things that I wanted when it came to my chest. I wanted the Triple H disc.
Yeah.
You know, it was just like one big muscle with the really defined underneath bit. And I wanted what I called the Brock Lesnar line.
The half line across the chest?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like when he won the title the first time.
And
he just pulled it down like that, and the line just shot across his chest, and I was like, "Oh my god, what's that?" And I've got the line now, all right. But if I want the more defined kind of under chest, I'm gonna have to lean up.
Yeah,
and,
I think there may be some other things you need there, not just to lean up.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at Triple H now, it's probably more of what you'll get.
Yes. I've always been quite lucky in like the genetic side of things. You know, I've been lucky that I can not have the cleanest of diets, you know, and still build muscle quite easily.
I mean, how big are you, just for our listeners? Because obviously on screen now you look the same size as the rest of us, but I can assure you this guy is not the same.
Weight-wise, I always hover between 17 and 18.
What, really? 17 and 18, did you just say?
Yeah, weight-wise, I always hover between 17 and 18.
And how tall are you?
6'1".
Wow, okay, yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, a lot of people, especially in wrestling, when they lift me up, they say, "Oh, I thought you were going to way more than that." You know, I'm like, what are you trying to say? I'm just really good at jumping. But yeah, you know, I've stayed at that weight for a while now. There was a time I dropped down to like the early 16s, and I felt very lean.
Yeah.
But then I've always taken what I call the Rampage Brown approach. You know, everyone in this country in wrestling seems to be leaning down. You know, they want that kind of six pack and the defined shoulders, even if it comes to the detriment of not looking intimidating anymore.
Yeah.
You know,
I'm with you. Yeah.
Yeah, I've always preferred, you know, guys like Arn Anderson, for example, who you could tell you could tell he went to the gym, but it wasn't the be all end all, you know, and it still looked like if you got into it in a bar, it'd kick your ass.
Yeah.
You know, rather than, you know, check if an eighth ab is coming through, you know, after the match, like.
Yeah.
And
that was
yeah, there was quite a few.
Sorry, go on.
Yeah, there was quite a few heavyweights in the country, but you know, me and Rampage Brown were always the two that was just kind of big, you know. And whenever we wrestled each other, I think people looked like, wow, this is going to be a scrap. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
you know, that's the wrestler that I portray. You know, it's like a scrappy powerhouse. You know.
Yeah, I mean, I remember the very first time I met you at, I think it was an EAW show. I think I first met you. And I was genuinely thinking, shit, I've got to wrestle this guy. And he's a fucking big dude. I'd never met you before. I'd never spoke to you. All I'd seen is the way you look and the size of you. And I'm thinking, oh, this ain't going to be good. He ain't going to want to do much. I'm 5'6". I'm lucky if I weigh 12 stone. And you weren't. You were like, massively supportive of anything we wanted to do. There was nothing you were like, I mean, it was me, you, and Massa, I think it was, that very first of all, the only time I think I wrestled you, actually.
Yeah, I remember.
And I was the bad guy, weirdly. So the smallest dude in the room is against, I mean, Massa's a big guy.
Yeah,
and against you and him. And I was thinking, oh, how's this dynamic going to work? This is going to be a bit odd. So we just done the kind of feared champion. I stay out of the way and just let you guys kind of beat on each other. But I was like shocked. I was like, hang on, this guy's like, he's really nice. He's not intimidating. He's, you know, he's willing to listen to what you want to do. He doesn't just shut you down.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I was shocked.
I think it's utterly ridiculous. You know, don't get me wrong. Like, you know, you've got to stand up for yourself, and you've got to, you know, at a certain level, you feel like you've commanded respect rather than demanded it.
Yeah.
You know, if someone disrespects you, you know, then that's a different thing, you know. But when it comes to wrestling, I've just never understood why anyone would try and act hard. You know, like even if they are hard, you know, like great, they'll be great in a bar fight, you know. But we're not in a bar fight. We're wrestling in tights and baby oil in front of families.
Do you know what? Someone used to always say to me, like, "Oh, I wouldn't want to get on the wrong side of you," and I'm like, "A, we pretend to fight. We get paid to pretend to fight. I'm not going to go around doing it for free. Like, I'm not going to really fight somebody, but I might really get hurt. At least I know what I'm doing when I'm wrestling."
Yeah. I don't want to get hurt. I've got a show tomorrow.
Well, that's the change in wrestling. That's the change in wrestling now. I think someone said, it used to be the case where we'd take care of each other, and people thought it was fake, and we were trying to convince them that it was, it wasn't, and it was a bit real, and now they know it's a show, and we're beating the crap out of each other like it is real. It just doesn't make any sense.
I have seen some
it's
recently.
Well, can you imagine, like, if I don't know, Jason Statham and Sylvester Stallone in The Expendables, turned around to each other and said, well, there'll be people in the cinema, who think this is just a film. Okay, so let's beat the crap out of each other, and make them think it's real. I mean, how ridiculous does that sound?
It does, but in all fairness, Sylvester Stallone really looks like he's lived those Rocky films.
Oh yeah, didn't
it looks like he had every fight.
Yeah,
he got a rib broken by Dolph Lundgren, didn't he?
Yeah. It was actually, it was like something to do with his sternum, I think.
Oh wow!
Like he told Lundgren to lay it in, basically. And I mean, with what we're doing in wrestling, we are essentially doing like a Hollywood fight scene, and they will be some matches where you have to give more of your body, to the scene or to the match, because it's been built up to, or it's an important match in the eyes of the fans, but you'll have the understanding with your opponent, let's make it look snug, okay? Still take care of each other, but people are going to be expecting a certain presentation here,
Yeah.
But that going in, but I've just never understood. Like I've always taken from, say, Kurt Angle, okay, who legitimately could probably have, 99% of the WWE roster, and look what he was doing on TV, There was a point where he was wearing a kid's cowboy hat, and
or the toupee with the wrestling wig, the wrestling thing over the top of it, like
absolutely.
I'm a sexy Kurt.
Yeah, I'm a sexy Kurt. But then, like two weeks after he sang that sexy Kurt song, he went in and proved just how good he was against Michaels at WrestleMania.
Yeah.
And suddenly it's like, well, he can really do both. What I mean? And it's entertainment at the end of the day. And people have to remember that. And if they want to do real wrestling, then you can enter the league where they do real wrestling.
Yeah. And you'll soon realize why you don't want to be doing that.
Well, yeah. Like, I mean, and some people have, I mean, I've got all the respect in the world for people that cross over. They say, I'm an entertainer here, but I want something a bit more. And then go into legitimate combat.
Yeah, and a lot of these guys are, established athletes before they go into pro wrestling. They've got a massive amateur background, or they were jiu-jitsu fighters, or any of those sort of things. They don't just go into wrestling and fall into it. A lot of them are legitimately top sports guys in other fields.
Yeah, I mean, I think the kind of standard bearer for athleticism is probably Brock. I mean, the fact that he was a collegiate wrestler on a national level, then he came in and kind of took to pro wrestling like a duck to water, with his freaky strength and athleticism, and then he left to play football that he hadn't played since school, and he was almost drafted to the NFL. Yeah. How crazy is that? And then he goes into MMA and actually pretty much dominates it and becomes one of the biggest draws of all time. We can't all be Brock though.
No. I mean, Rogan went on record to say that if he'd gone straight from the NCAA into MMA, he would probably been the most, if not the most dominant guy who had ever stepped into a ring. And in wrestling, and that's coming from someone who, well, in MMA, sorry, in UFC, and that's coming from someone who doesn't take a lot, like, needs a lot of convincing when it comes to wrestlers going in. I mean, obviously he watched CM Punk go in and he was just like, he's way past his age for wanting to be getting into this anyway. But again, hats off to the guy for wanting to go in and get his face smashed by some guys who are in their prime.
Yeah. I mean, I've got a lot of time for it though. He wanted to do something.
I agree.
He wasn't just talking about it. He just shut up and did it,
Yeah.
Fail or succeed, other people wouldn't have even had the balls to do it, You do bring up a good point though. Like, it always makes me wonder that if UFC or MMA was as big as it is now, which wrestlers wouldn't have gone into wrestling, which would have gone into the MMA route. I'm pretty sure someone like Shelton Benjamin, for example, could have done very well for himself. I believe Steve Austin has said, that he might have gone that route.
Yeah.
Had it been more of an option back then, would Undertaker even be, Undertaker?
He's tickled with the idea, hasn't he? And
yeah.
We've got Jack Swagger now as well, who's doing really well.
Yeah, I mean, he just won his second or third Bellator match. So, I mean, he's still going out there dominating and being a pro wrestler.
Yep. Yep. And I remember, like, I'm a big MMA fan anyway. And I get a lot of like training ideas from them. Okay. Because again, they've got the right idea, especially someone like George St. Pierre,
Yeah, definitely.
They train for a 25-minute fight. Okay. Because they don't know it's not going to go 25 minutes. So they have to train like it is, even though it might be over in 1 minute.
Yep.
And he said that when he started to get popular, he realized that he was going to be on talk shows, and he was going to be on magazine covers, and things like that. So he started training in the gym with weights and training for hypertrophy. All right. And he didn't do that before. Okay. But he only did it because he wanted to look good, like on the front of the magazines and stuff, and all he did was like a 4 exercise superset, I think, on his chest, just boom, 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 like 3 or 4 times round. It wasn't anything too crazy or anything like that. But with all the other training, it's naturally going to be very lean anyway, But I get a lot of training ideas from them, and I remember watching a behind the scenes like extras on the DVD. And it was just after Matt Hughes had won his fight and defended his welterweight belt, and Undertaker walks in, to the dressing room, and they all fucking pop like they're the biggest marks. It's just like, oh my god, kind of thing. And he's marking out for them because he's a big MMA fan,
Yeah.
And he just says like, oh man, like, I've got, if I ever become a pro wrestler, I've got my finisher down. Okay. And he goes, what is it? He goes, it's flying armbar. All right. and he gets one of the heavyweights off his team to like post for him, and he shows him this flying armbar, and lo and behold, Taker starts using it on TV. Like,
I'm having that before you get.
Like, well, okay, well, that's it's the influence. Wrestling has always taken in the influence of popular culture.
Yeah, and then you look at MMA. I mean, MMA's made itself popular because of wrestling. I mean, so many people have taken that same, the entrances, they've taken the theatrics from their press conferences and done all that. I mean, Conor McGregor, like him or hate him, he's done what any good promo guy would have done. He's made himself be the number one. He's made himself draw people in because of his theatrics. He doesn't necessarily believe all the stuff he's saying, but that's where the influence from the pro wrestling world comes from.
Yeah, I mean, you can go back to the days of Muhammad Ali.
Yeah, exactly.
He was trash talking before trash talking was cool, so to speak.
Yeah. Probably the inventor of a promo.
Yeah, I mean, from England, people like Chris Eubank, and Nigel Benn, they're always very like, I'm going to hype this fight, as compare that to say Lennox Lewis, who was always quite sportsmanlike,
get the job done.
Yeah, he never really wanted to go into like the jaw jacking, way of doing things. But it takes in all kinds, a lot like wrestling. If everyone was jaw jacking, then no one would be special because they're a good jaw jacker, and like someone like GSP, as I mentioned, he was always very respectful. And you pair him up with someone like Nick Diaz, who is anything but respectful.
Oh, the Diaz brothers. You don't get much better than those two.
Yeah, but equally good fighters, then it's like the Ric Flair, Ricky Steamboat, or the Dusty Rhodes and the Ric Flair, or the Steve Austin and the Rock. You got two people coming from different backgrounds who are just as good as each other. And in the combat world or the entertainment world, opposites attract at the end of the day. Otherwise, it's the same person fighting the same person.
Although I would pay to see Diaz brothers versus the Briscoes. So if anyone wants to book that, please do.
I'm sorry, mate, but I've still got my money on the Diaz brothers.
Who's a bigger redneck?
It's got to be the Diaz brothers.
I mean, there's no teeth to knock out of the Briscoes, right?
Yeah.
So
I would think it would be safe to say that they probably wouldn't make it to the ring because they'd be backstage getting stoned.
So we are just about ready to wrap up. So we're going to ask a question that we've been asked a few times. What advice would you give yourself as a younger you?
Oh,
training advice.
Don't get married the first time.
That's pretty good advice.
No.
There are all those people out there who've been married more than once.
Yeah. You see, I'm a big believer in like not regretting anything from your past, because if that hadn't happened, you might not be where you are now.
Exactly.
So as far as advice, I would probably just try and just say, because I've always felt like, especially in the early days of wrestling, like when I first started, I always felt like I missed out on some opportunities because I wasn't like upfront with what I felt my skills were. I'd let everyone else kind of dictate it because I didn't want to rock the boat or anything like that. And then they'd get praised because they dictated it when I could have dictated it and I chose not to. So yeah, just like if you're good at something, don't be ashamed of saying that you're good at it.
Yeah.
There's a big difference between being cocky about it and being confident. And if you're not confident, it's a bit cheeky to ask someone else to have confidence in you. But you can come across with, like, as arrogant sometimes to people because, maybe you've got a high confidence level. But especially in wrestling, if you're asking promoters, to have confidence in you that you can do a good job, then you can't not have confidence in yourself that you're going to do a good job.
Yeah,
it's okay to talk about things that you're proud of. Yeah, it's okay to talk about things that you're proud of. If you've done something good, it's okay to be happy and proud about it. Tell people how proud you are, of this achievement or this match you had or this workout you had or whatever, and don't let anyone put you down, by saying that, you talk about yourself too much. Okay. Because if they were doing something that they were proud of, they'd be doing the same. Okay. That's their problem, not yours.
That's a great piece of advice. Yeah, I couldn't agree more on that one. So it has been absolutely fantastic to have you on. I know it's taken us a little while to get this sorted, but we have finally done it. So I massively appreciate you coming on, and you have made history being our very first ever podcast guest. So massively appreciate that. So where can people find you guys and the House of Pain guys?
Yes.
No, thank you. It's been great. Love talking about training. Love talking about wrestling. Love talking about anything like-minded with like-minded people. So I'll be happy to come on again at any point.
Mate, we would absolutely love to have you back on.
This is my podcast now.
Okay, how can I cut him off?
We'll change it
Where-
to
where's,
let's
um,
scrap about it.
Say that again, Scott.
We'll change it to let's strap about it.
Oh yeah, there's no chalk used on your side, mate. Sorry. So where can people find you if they want to get in touch with the House of Pain School? Or I mean, obviously at the moment you're closed, but
I'll be
hopefully
around.
lockdown.
Yeah, House of Pain's on Twitter, it's on Instagram, it's on Facebook, just House of Pain Wrestling. You get me on the same platforms, normally under the Stixx name. Like there aren't that many people named Stixx in the world, so it's probably better you look that one up rather than Paul, because God knows how many Pauls there are in the world. But yeah, like I'm around if anyone wants to find me.
And Scott, where can we find you?
I am Scott Speaking on Instagram.
Cool. And you can find us at let's_talkabout it on Instagram. You can also go to www.letstalkaboutit.co.uk. All podcasts, including this one, will be included on that. And you can also go to our Patreon page. So again, thank you very much for your time, Stixx. Thank you again, Scott. And we will catch you guys again soon.
Wicked.